Every bomb that drops makes someone richer. Every soldier that dies puts money in someone's pocket. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a business model. The same corporations profit from every single war, and they've been doing it for over a century. In 1935, a decorated Marine general named Smedley Butler wrote a book called War is a Racket. He had 2 Congressional Medals of Honor. He led American forces across the globe, and when he retired, he admitted the truth. I spent most of my time being a high-class muscle man for big business. That was 90 years ago. Nothing has changed. The faces are different, the flags are different, but the money flows the same direction. Follow the money trail. Today, we're going to expose the racket that's been running since before your grandparents were born. And I'll show you exactly who's cashing the checks. The business model. War isn't fought for freedom. It isn't fought for democracy. Those are the advertisements. War is fought for profit, and the profit model is elegant in its brutality. First, you manufacture fear. Tell people they are in danger. Show them an enemy. Make them scared enough to accept anything. Then, you manufacture consent. Media outlets owned by the same conglomerates that own defense contractors suddenly start beating the war drums. Experts appear on television explaining why intervention is necessary. These experts, many of them sit on the boards of defense companies. They don't disclose that. Next, you manufacture the war itself. Contracts are signed. Billions flow from taxpayers to corporations. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, Northrop Grumman. Billions. And here's the beautiful part for them: the war never needs to end. In fact, endless war is the optimal outcome, because peace is bad for business. The Afghanistan war lasted 20 years, $2 trillion spent. Where did that money go? Not to the Afghan people, not to American infrastructure. It went to defense contractors. Endless war equals profit. But this is just the first layer of the racket. The revolving door. Want to know why wars keep happening? Look at who makes the decisions. Generals retire from the Pentagon and immediately take seats on the boards of defense companies. They get paid millions to consult. Then those same companies lobby for more military spending. Former defense secretaries become executives at Raytheon. Former CIA directors join private intelligence firms. This isn't corruption in the traditional sense. This is the system. The people who start wars are the people who profit from them, and it's perfectly legal. Between 2008 and 2018, over 380 high-ranking Pentagon officials went to work for defense contractors. They took their connections, their insider knowledge, and their influence straight to the companies bidding for government contracts. If this is starting to open your eyes, hit like and subscribe to keep exposing what they hide, because the connections go even deeper than you think. Defense companies spend hundreds of millions lobbying Congress, and Congress members who sit on armed services committees. They receive massive campaign donations from the same companies. The military-industrial complex has become so pervasive that it's invisible. But there's another player in this game that nobody talks about. Wall Street's war. Defense contractors need money to operate, and that money comes from Wall Street. The biggest investment banks hold massive positions in defense stocks. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. These 3 firms alone manage trillions of dollars, and they are invested heavily in war. When tensions rise with Russia, defense stocks surge. When conflict erupts in the Middle East, portfolios grow. War is literally good for their returns, but it gets darker. These same investment firms also own significant shares of media companies. The networks telling you why war is necessary are owned by the same people who profit from that war. Is that a conflict of interest? You tell me. In 2022, after Russia invaded Ukraine, defense stocks jumped by double digits. Lockheed Martin surged 20%. Raytheon gained 15%. Northrop Grumman hit all-time highs. Destruction creates shareholder value. The fund managers celebrating those gains don't see dead bodies. They see quarterly earnings. And speaking of quarterly earnings, there's a mechanism that makes all of this possible. Your tax dollars. The United States spends more on its military than the next 9 countries combined. Let that sink in. More than China, Russia, India, Saudi Arabia, the UK, Germany, France, South Korea, and Japan put together. In 2023, the military budget exceeded $800 billion. $886 billion. That's your money taken from your paycheck before you even see it. And where does it go? Schools are crumbling. Bridges are collapsing. Healthcare bankrupts families. But there's always money for another aircraft carrier. Always money for another fighter jet. Always money for another war. The Pentagon has never passed an audit. Never. They literally cannot account for trillions of dollars. In any other organization, that would be fraud. In the defense industry, it's just Tuesday. They cannot tell you where the money went. And when anyone questions this spending, they're called unpatriotic. They're told they don't support the troops. But supporting the troops means bringing them home, not sending them to die for corporate profits. Every gun that is made represents a theft from those who hunger. And the theft is accelerating. But wait. Because the mechanism of theft goes back further than you think. Century of rackets. This isn't new. The war racket has been running for over 100 years. World War I made millionaires into billionaires. Companies that supplied weapons, uniforms, and equipment saw profits explode while millions died in trenches. After that war, congressional investigations revealed the profiteering. They called them the merchants of death. Companies deliberately prolonged the war for profit. DuPont, U.S. Steel, Bethlehem Steel. They made fortunes from slaughter, and what happened after the investigations? Nothing. The same companies helped arm Nazi Germany in the 1930s. American corporations sold technology and materials to Hitler while he built his war machine. Standard Oil, Ford, IBM, General Motors. When World War II started, they profited from both sides. Then came Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan. Each war created new billionaires. Pattern repeats every generation. Different enemies, same beneficiaries. The names on the contracts changed, but the money always flowed in the same direction. Away from the people who fight and die, toward the people who count their dividends. But the modern version of this racket has evolved into something even more sinister. Forever wars. The war on terror was the perfect product. An enemy that couldn't be defeated because it wasn't a country. It was an idea. You can't bomb an idea into submission. And that's exactly the point. Victory was never the goal because peace would end the profits. 20 years in Afghanistan, trillions spent. The Taliban is back in power. What was accomplished? For the Afghan people, devastation. For American soldiers, over 2,000 dead, tens of thousands wounded, countless more struggling with trauma. For defense contractors, record profits for 2 decades straight. The contractors who built bases, supplied equipment, trained soldiers, and provided services made fortunes. Some of these contracts were classified. We don't even know how much was spent or where it went. 1. 20 years of war. 2. $2 trillion spent. 3. Taliban back in power. 4. Defense contractors made billions. Iraq followed the same pattern. Weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist. A war justified by lies. Contractors like Halliburton and Blackwater became synonymous with corruption. Vice President Cheney's former company received no-bid contracts worth billions. But there's an even darker element to how these wars get started. Manufacturing enemies. Here's a pattern that should disturb you. Many of America's enemies were created by America. The Mujahideen who became Al-Qaeda, funded and armed by the CIA to fight the Soviets. Saddam Hussein, supported by the U.S. throughout the 1980s, given weapons and intelligence, even given chemical weapons precursors that he used on Iranians and Kurds. Create the enemy, then destroy it. This isn't incompetence. This is the business model working perfectly. First, you arm a group to fight your current enemy. Then when that war ends, you need a new enemy. Conveniently, the people you armed are now a threat. The same weapon systems get sold twice. The cycle perpetuates itself. Defense companies make money arming allies. Then they make money destroying those same weapons when allies become enemies. Then they make money rebuilding what was destroyed. It's a three-phase profit model funded entirely by your taxes. And the media plays along every single time. But the manipulation goes even deeper than just enemies abroad. The media machine. When was the last time you saw a mainstream news segment questioning military spending? When did CNN or Fox host a serious debate about whether a war was justified? The media doesn't question war because the media is owned by the same interests that profit from war. The first casualty of war is truth. Network news features retired generals as analysts. These generals have defense contractor affiliations that are rarely disclosed. They're presented as objective experts when they're actually salesmen. During the Iraq War buildup, nearly every network expert was connected to defense industry money. They sold that war to the American public. They knew the evidence was thin. They pushed it anyway. The experts on TV have financial stakes in the wars they promote. Social media isn't much better. Platforms flag content that questions official narratives. Alternative voices are suppressed, demonetized, or banned entirely. The manufacturing of consent that Noam Chomsky described decades ago has only become more sophisticated. Control the narrative, control the people. But even knowing all this, there's something that keeps the racket running that we haven't discussed yet. Patriotism for sale. The most insidious part of the war racket is how they weaponize your love of country against you. Patriotism becomes a product. Support the troops becomes a marketing slogan. Question the war and you hate America. Propaganda, military flyovers at football games. The Pentagon pays for those. Recruitment booths at schools. Taxpayer-funded marketing. Blockbuster movies that glorify war, often made with Department of Defense cooperation in exchange for portraying the military positively. They spend billions making war look heroic, making sacrifice seem noble, making questioning the mission seem like betrayal. They use your patriotism to pick your pocket. Real patriotism would be demanding that soldiers' lives aren't wasted for corporate earnings. Real patriotism would be insisting your tax dollars build schools instead of bombs. Real patriotism would be asking why defense CEOs make millions while veterans sleep on the streets. But that kind of patriotism doesn't sell weapons. That kind of patriotism doesn't fill campaign coffers, so they give you the other kind. The kind that waves flags while writing checks to Lockheed Martin. And here's what they don't want you to realize about all of this. Breaking the cycle. The war racket continues because we let it, because we believe the propaganda, because we don't follow the money, because we accept that some things are too big to question. But once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. War against a foreign nation only happens when the moneyed classes think they are going to profit from it. Every congressional vote for military spending, every media segment pushing for intervention, every think tank report calling for action. Ask yourself, who benefits? Not the soldiers who fight, not the civilians who die, not the taxpayers who fund it. The beneficiaries sit in boardrooms and count their dividends while others pay the price. Follow the money always. This isn't about being anti-military. The troops are victims of this system too. Young people recruited with promises of education and opportunity, sent to fight wars that serve shareholders, not citizens. Breaking the cycle starts with awareness. Question every war before the first bomb drops. Question the experts. Check their affiliations. Question the urgency. Fear is a sales tool. Question where the money flows. It always tells the truth. War is a racket. It always has been. It always will be unless we wake up to how the game is played. The same companies profit from every conflict. The same banks hold the same stocks. The same revolving door spins between the Pentagon and corporate boards. The same media sells the same fear. And the same taxpayers foot the bill while the same soldiers pay with their lives. Different wars, same winners. Smedley Butler tried to warn us 90 years ago. Eisenhower tried to warn us 70 years ago. The pattern is clear for anyone willing to see it, but seeing it isn't enough. We need to demand transparency in military spending. Demand disclosure of conflicts of interest. Demand that the voices calling for war explain who profits from it. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. If you made it this far, Comment WAR is a racket to prove you see through the propaganda now, because every government lies. The question is, what are they lying about? And when it comes to war, they're lying about everything except the profits. The truth is out there. You just have to follow the money. Subscribe if you want to keep digging.